So this week on the Ratrod project, I've got some cool updates. I've got a hold of a new axle for it, and we're going to show you that a little later and talk about the axle and where it came from. And I'm also going to go ahead and start building these rear corner pieces for the quarters and the body molding that goes around. And then maybe if we have a little bit of extra time, might make some headlight mounts for it as well. So let's go ahead and dive into some time lapses, and then we'll check back in when we're done. So let's go ahead and talk about the progress we've gotten accomplished here. So first off, what I did is I took a bunch of different pieces of round rod and I tacked them in place and created this line here for the upper section of the body molding, as well as these two pieces that'll go across and around to the other side. And I'm kind of just creating this body molding design from my imagination here. And it's, I think, pretty cool looking and kind of ties into early styling cues from the 20s and 30s. Now, eventually, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and make pieces to go in this section here, as well as across and to the other side. And then all this is going to get finish welded and ground down. So it'll look very similar to what we already have on the doors and quarters here. Now, the second sections, or the second set of sections I put together today, are these corner pieces here and on the other side. And as you saw in the time lapses, I created these pieces utilizing the English wheel that I have, which allows me to create the curve this way as well as this way in the panel. And I use some templates to cut out some fresh steel for that. Now, so far, I've been trying to use existing steel from old projects and old cut up vehicles. But in this case, I had a couple of pieces of fresh steel sitting around, and because I'm going to make the double curve setup on it, I decided I really wanted to go with something that was new and clean so I can make a really nice shape of it. So now that we've got all that in place, you can really see what the back of the vehicle is starting to look like. And we've got most of the outside of the body now figured out and lined up. Moving along to the front here, let's talk about the headlights setup. So the headlights are 1920 style headlights. We looked at them in an earlier video. They've got the standard insignia in the glass there. Now these headlights I found off of eBay, and what I did is I created the little yoke piece or fork piece that holds them out of just some half-inch round rod that I heated and bent into the correct shape. And then this is actually an old shock mount that I used to create the tower and the hardware setup for the yoke. And now these pieces here that I put together in one of the other time lapses today are leftover segments from the running boards that I actually made the frame rail out of. And I put a couple of different parts and pieces together, cleaned them up to create this headlight mount bracket. Now eventually, as you can see, this is a little bit wiggly, and that's just because we've got it mounted to the sheet metal of the grill shell here. But what I'll do later on is I'll set up some bracketry underneath the grill shell where you can't see it that'll tie in to the top of the frame rail and create a sturdier mount for those headlight brackets so they don't move around quite as much as they do right now. Also, there's going to be some structure in this section as well. It's going to reinforce everything because I'm going to have to build the springs that'll come forward to attach to our new front axle. So let's go ahead and talk about this axle for a minute. So what this axle is actually out of is a 1940 or 41 Chevy half-ton truck. And there's a couple of reasons why I chose to go with this front axle. First of all, the parts for it are relatively cheap and readily available, which is important when you're building cars like this because you want to be able to get the components you need to rebuild and re-engineer things. The other reason why I selected the Chevy truck axle is because it has the same 6-lug bolt pattern as the Chevy Love rear axle. So that allows me to operate with the same wheels and tires on all 4 corners. And these wheels and tires are going to be our temporary rollers. Eventually I have over on the other side of the shop here this set of old school wire wheels, which I'm going to be utilizing for the wheels on this vehicle eventually, but right now I've got this set for rollers. So my puppy was kind of barking in the background there, so I decided to open up the garage door here so we could get a better look at this and reset the camera a little bit. So now that we can stand back, you can see the new front axle setup. And this was originally mounted with leaf springs, which we're going to do like a quarter elliptical style spring. So I'll build a tower that comes off the side of the frame rail, and then a quarter, so a half of a leaf spring will come forward and mount off of a plate I'll build for this. And that's going to create my suspension for this front axle, which I'll get to eventually after I've got the engine and transmission mounted and a few other things. Now, as I said earlier, these parts are relatively easy to get a hold of for these axles, which is why I selected it. And it's a good thing too, because we're going to go ahead and need the kingpins to be replaced, and both brake setups are going to need to be replaced as well, and probably brake lines, master cylinder or wheel cylinders, and that sort of a thing. So all said and done, that's going to give us a pretty cool setup, and I really like the way the headlights have turned out here. And now you can really kind of stand back and see what this car is starting to look like. And I think it's going to be a really cool setup. I'm excited about the lines of the car and the dimensions. It's pretty small, but it's also got a lot of really cool lines to it. And I just think it's going to be really neat to see all of this come together. And in the rear, we're going to do the same kind of thing for suspension. We'll do quarter elliptical also. And as you can see, there's plenty of room in here to build that suspension work and keep it all behind the seats. Really starting to come together. Pretty excited about it. So yeah, there we go. That's going to be this week's installment. I'm happy to see the car kind of coming together and really liking the lines, really liking the look. The axle is going to be a big help to get us going along the way. And eventually we'll come up with a steering box to mount off of the frame rail as well. And now we've got some of the really big components of this vehicle all put together. So we can really start to see things rolling along. And then hopefully at some point soon I'll be able to go ahead and start putting together the hood for it, which will again really bring together the lines of the car. So pretty cool progress for this week. Really happy with it, and I'm excited to go on to the next step. So that's going to do it for this week's video. I think we got a lot of progress accomplished this time around. It's really nice to have the front axle on there and the headlights. That kind of gives us a good idea of what everything's going to look like. And then these panels on the back corners really fill out the rest of the body. Next time, I'll probably go ahead and build the little pieces that are going to fill in the round rod area, which will continue to fill out that body molding section. They're going to be a little bit more complicated, so I decided to wait on those and go for the headlights instead. So I'd also like to say, before I close out the video, I really appreciate all you out there who have been subscribing. We're almost up to 250 subscribers on the channel now, so be sure and like and subscribe. It's been a lot of fun so far, and I'm looking forward to more progress on this particular project. And I hope you guys have a really good first part of your new year, and we'll see you next time.